Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of HEX, Houdini Exchange. This is an ongoing series of interviews with people from the Houdini community, studio artists and indie artists, developers, event organizers, you name it, people from across the spectrum. For now, we'll show these as YouTube premieres on the first Friday of each month. We've got some great stories lined up for today's episode. First up, you may have seen that we recently launched a short 2-minute film called The Dawning. Project lead Fianna Wong speaks with one of the project artists, Nikola Damjanov. Next up, Robert McGee, Ben Mears, and myself will talk about Mardini, the upcoming Daily Art Challenge. You might have seen last year's Houly Daily Art Challenge. Well, this time it's Mardini. And we're also going to speak with last year's winner about his experience, Moeen Sayed. In January, we published a Houdini learning course on how to make a chocolate bar. Fianna Wong will talk with Tim van Helsdingen, the author of that course. Next up, Ben Mears speaks with Jacob Reynolds, the winner of the Houdini category in the Epic MegaJam. Then Fianna and Paula Catano from the SideFX marketing team will tell you about some upcoming Hugs, Houdini user groups, and the presentations that you'll see there. Then Ben speaks with Chris Wallis, the winner of the RenderMan Art Challenge. And finally, as part of his Illume webinar, Jeff Wagner recently spoke with Blue Sky Studios' Chris Rydalch about USD pipelines. We'll end this episode of HEX with an excerpt from that interview. Let's dive in.
Over the past year and a little bit, we've been working on an internal demo project called The Dawning. This animated short film was done by a mix of internal and external artists, and it was done concurrent to the Houdini 18.5 release. Today with me is one of the artists. He's the artist behind the environment work, Nikola Damjanov. So let's get to it. Hello everyone. I would like to introduce you all to Nikola Damjanov. He is the terrain artist in the film The Dawning that we recently put out this past Friday, actually. And he's here to tell us a bit about himself and also the work that he did. So, Nikola?
Hey guys. Hey, thank you for having me here. Like you already said, my name is Nikola. I'm a 3D generalist, basically, in my day job, and in my night job, I'm like a procedural thinker. That's at least what I kind of try to tell people when I try to explain what do I do. So I had this wonderful opportunity of doing terrains for the Dawning. I don't know if it started by accident or by not, but long story short, I think that the guys from SideFX saw some terrains that I did for the game in Nordius, where I'm actually working on my day job. We did some great terrains for the game called Heroic, and we had some nice approaches which we kind of incorporated, and I think it made a little bit of splash in the community, and I guess that's what actually got me the invite. Am I right or am I wrong?
Ding ding!
Ding ding, nice. So that was my ticket in, and then I was overwhelmed with this opportunity to cooperate with SideFX. As a guy who's working every day in a company, I rarely get opportunity to cooperate with big names like SideFX. So of course I wanted to see what's going on and how I can collaborate and contribute to this project. And immediately as soon as I heard sci-fi Mars, I was like, yeah, just sign me in. You got me at Mars. That's it. Because I am a huge space nerd, so this was up right my alley, which was really nice. And to be honest, the task was a bit challenging at first. I was kind of scared if I was gonna kind of meet the standards that were actually very, very high. Since I was kind of used to mobile gaming environments, with specific quality bars, specific performance optimizations and stuff. I'm not a guy who has a lot of background in VFX or pre-rendered stuff. I used to deal with it years before, but I don't know, maybe last 10 years, I think I was strictly more oriented over something which you might call real-time graphics, not the pre-rendered one. So it was a bit daunting at the beginning. I was kind of sweating, but I think that within first 2 weeks, the moment we got some first tests out, it was clear that it's going to be achievable for me, and that's kind of really gave me a great confidence boost. So it was was pretty interesting challenge, to because as the project goes, we had to solve a little bit on scale, So we had to solve problems of making terrains which are like really close to the astronauts' feet, so really close by. Then we had to like go a little bit wider and show like the surrounding cliffs with, I don't know, like 20, 30 meter radius, and then like even zoom out for like to show some really big vistas. And every task, like every different challenge, had maybe like a very similar base. As an approach on how I made things, but also every new scale had a new challenge that I had to solve, and it was as fun as challenging as I thought it would be, but it was also very I would dare to say easy, because as you know, like Houdini proceduralism, once you have like a system setup and you find something that works, it's really easy to replicate because it just like copy paste nodes and play with parameters. And me, as a guy who really likes procedurally doing things, I quite enjoy that every day. So even like there were a couple of shots that Fianna will testify to this, which I actually delivered, and then I continued tinkering with them because I just couldn't stop. It was like, oh no, but I want to try this and this and that. So it's very hard to stop once you get the ball rolling in this proceduralism game. But yeah, what else can I say?
I don't know.
I have no idea. Yeah.
That was great.
That was good. Yeah.
Yeah. I to add to that, I mean, it really helped once Nikola had the whole setup of the general look of the terrains. Whenever we had to make some adjustment, like to match the astronaut's footstep or like to not collide into like a piece of rock. Nikola would just like update the terrain and then like resend us a new version like in the evening, or was it morning? I can't even remember.
Yeah,
we had like there were so many nights where we were just like
I mean, if you guys watch the like the very fast breakdown I did for the microsite, you can see a lot of approaches that we tried. I mean, it looks easy there. It was kind of easy, but it did like take some iteration to get to the final result. For example, like we were always kind of playing with scale, and I know I had like trouble like defining the scale at the beginning. But for example, that part when we were trying to kind of blend in the cracked ground height field into the large cliff height field. I cannot imagine like redoing that entire thing if I was like sculpting or like traditionally modeling that. It would be pain in everything. But yeah, in the head. But since like this was done with Houdini, I could just like scale the height field, like change the density of for noise cells and have like a completely different scale blended in within minutes. And that is heaven for iteration work. It really is,
Yeah, and a giant sigh of relief when the stuff came back, and it's like, what's that? Yeah. So now, like after donning, like what do you do these days aside from resting?
Sorry. My day job is still making games. That's and then I have a like evening job, which is like spending time with family, and then I have a night job, which is doing like a lot of personal work. I have no idea what's next. Like this was like a very like big catharsis moment for now. So I'm probably going to continue with some like low level personal projects. Because every year I start like 50 of personal projects and I finish like 5, and then it's like, and that's like that is really starting to annoy me how much folders I have in my VIP folder on my desktop. So this year I've kind of promised myself to clear up a lot of that clutter, and already started working on a lot of them. So hopefully you're going to see a couple more personal projects. And actually, I think that most of them will be involved in one way or another, in one capacity or another with Houdini. So it's going to be interesting.
Cool. Well, Živeli.
Živeli, yeah.
And
I'm working on a lot of new games as well, which I cannot speak about, but they're going to be awesome.
Well, we have the whole year ahead of us.
Yep.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with us today.
Always.
We will probably be seeing more of you in the future.
It will be my pleasure.
So last year in 2020, for the month of July, we launched a daily art challenge called Houly, obviously playing on the name July. Lots of people called it Houly, but it was Houly. This year, we're going to do another one in March called Mardini. So we brought the winner of last year's Houly, Moeen Sayed, in, and we'd like to speak with him, as well as the three of us were all judges on that last year. Plus Louise Cruel, who's no longer with SideFX, but is out there doing amazing work with Houdini still at a game studio. So for the first question, Rob, what would you say is a daily art challenge?
Well, we set up a whole series of prompts for all days of the month with a bunch of themes, weekly themes, such as elements, motion, animals, worlds, and then we had individual prompts for each day, scale, slime, waterway, that would give inspiration to the artist to figure out what they were going to present back to us that day.
And so it's a daily art challenge. Moeen, what would you say is the most challenging part?
Really, it is pacing yourself and remaining consistent. And although it's not a requirement to enter every day, that if you are entering every day, that really is a challenge. If you're entering for a few days, then just putting out really good quality work based around the topic is quite challenging. But for me, it was sort of knuckling down for 30 days and just putting out a work every single day, and always having to come up with a new idea. That's really challenging, and making sure that you don't hit any obstacles that you can't overcome in that 24-hour time frame, because sometimes you'll hit a wall and you have to be as efficient as possible, and that's really challenging sometimes, because you just sometimes don't know what's going wrong with your setup. And then the whole other thing is making sure that your work's good quality. You really have to balance your time with how much you're putting into the setup with how much you're going to put into rendering. And that sort of balance is tricky. You have to cut some corners without really cutting on quality. And so for me, those were, the biggest challenges. But yeah.
As a judge, I found it challenging as well, but it was because it was just so hard to pick the winners each day. There was 3,500 entries over the month, and so many good ones. And so, waking up in the morning, it was both the most challenging part of the day, but also the most inspiring, seeing all these amazing artworks each day, and trying to get down to a short list, and then kind of wrestling between the judges. But man, it was so inspiring and rewarding. So why would you say artists should participate? What do they get out of it? What did you get out of it?
So, first and foremost, it was actually just for fun. Initially, when I saw it, I was like, this could be a lot of fun. Entering every day, coming up with new artwork. It could be good for the creative process, because you often get stuck in a rut where you're just doing, commercial work, and you're very limited. But with this, it really broadens your horizons. You're entering every day with a different topic, and you're allowed to just let your mind go free. And the other thing is you really learn your limits. You learn how much you can put out in 24 hours. You learn just how much you can do. And that's really important if you're working in the industry. But even as a beginner or an amateur, if you're just entering just to figure out something new every day, it helps you learn. There's so much to learn by doing that every day. And every day you have the option to do something new. You can do flip or pyro or work with SOPs or custom solvers. And that really helps you to understand Houdini in a better sense. And then you also learn efficiency tricks. And so the amount that you get from the actual competition is incredible. Like, independent of the prizes that you have the chance of winning, there's so much that you gain personally. Like, for me, it was a growth period. That month really helped me understand how much I can do and what I can do. So yeah, I'd highly recommend it. I'm a big proponent of it.
Excellent. So Ben, what would you say to a potential entrant in terms of making their entry sing, making it stand out from the rest?
Yeah, that's tricky because so many of the entries for Houly were really good, and it was definitely a challenge to compare them against each other. I think kind of like Moeen said, like focus on your idea and take the steps to make it happen, but also don't let it get out of control. Don't let the scope get too big because really you only have one day and that's not much time at all. So try to keep it small, but also, go for the impact and the visual that you're actually looking for.
Moeen, what would you say are a few tips in terms of making your work stand out?
Firstly, I completely agree with Ben. Like, just don't bite off more than you can chew. That's really a challenge. But the other thing about having a work that stands out is just starting with a good concept, starting with a good sort of planning phase and building on it. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. But if you're starting with a good plan, you end up working towards something that you actually want. And if it's something that you wanted, chances are it's going to be better than something that you just sort of, freestyle throughout the day. So yeah, a good plan is always a good starting point. And then, of course, try to work on the quality of the renders. I think, texturing and lighting and all of those things are important factors. Really, I've seen some amazing setups that just sort of fell short because of a lighting issue that they may have had or texturing issues. And they could have just been incredible if that was, tweaked a bit. And so I think, focus on what's important and really just work to a plan. And that's what I would suggest. So, yeah.
Great suggestions. So we're really looking forward to Mardini. 31 days. Hopefully, if you're watching, you'll participate, whether it's for all 31 days and you get the Iron Heart Award, or if it's just for a few days. We'd love to see it one way or another. Looking forward to it. We'll see you soon.
Hey everyone, Fianna here, and I have with me Tim van Helsdingen, and we are the Bald Bros.
Bald Bros.
Because this is clearly the only way to go, guys. So actually, Tim is here to talk about the latest tutorial series that he did and that we published on SideFX. So if you haven't seen or heard about it, Tim, can you tell guys what it is about?
Oh, yeah. So, I made a course called Sassy Snacks or SideFX Snacks, and it kind of came about when, I initially texted with Chris, and Chris was like, maybe we can do sort of a course together. So we jumped on a call with Fianna in there, and we came up with some ideas. Chris pitched the idea of like maybe something with food as a small idea, and then I just thought about some concepts and eventually I felt like maybe it would be cool to do like an entire sort of food commercial instead of just like small thing, but like a food commercial. Make it sort of a SideFX themed food commercial. So I discussed that idea with like Fianna. So Fianna and I talked about the concept. Did like storyboard stuff and like went back and forth a little bit. And then, we had the storyboard, and
then Tim ate a bunch of Twix bars.
And then because I actually bought like a whole bunch of candy for like reference, because I mean, it was important, right? So to do like reference, and so then I got fat, and then I got slim again, and then I made the commercial. So I made the actual commercial thing. So it's like it's just like
the Tom Hanks tutorial.
Yeah, no, but it's like similar to how you would just do a regular commercial for a candy bar. So we just like we made the whole thing like from scratch from a storyboard. And I'm also approaching the course that way. So it was if you haven't seen it, it's a candy bar like a Twix with a Houdini logo in it. And then we're approaching the entire course sort of from scratch. So I show it with the storyboard, and then we go through the process of making an animatic and then splitting it into shots. And then building it into a full thing. And I figured it would be kind of cool to see like an entire production process, because like I guess like maybe some people are like students, they might not be familiar with how you tackle like an entire production process. They might like do some test themselves or R&D stuff, but if you've never like worked in the studio or like worked on productions, then you might not necessarily know how to sort of structure something like that. So now, yeah, with this course, try to sort of do that, and then entirely in Houdini, of course. So from storyboard to the final result, and I think I'm pretty happy with how the video and the whole series turned out, and quite a long tutorial series. It was turned out to be like 10 hours because I talked too much.
I think it was really good to be able to see how like your workflow logic, how you organize your shots and your folders and everything. It's just like kind of good workflow tips for people to see as well. And also the entire project file is available for download as well. Right.
Yeah, and the most important thing ever for project is there that you always need to make the logo bigger. That was the main takeaway from the course. And it was that's also in there. So.
Bigger is better, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Just put it like the entire screen full logo, and then you're good.
So like after this tutorial, what are you up to nowadays?
Well, I'm working on a cool client project. I'm not sure if I can talk about it, but it's going to be for a projection thing, so that's kind of cool. And I'm working on another course myself as well, just for a personal project thing, which is also going to be on my YouTube channel pretty soon. So like I try to sort of do like both. I do like client work while I do personal things, and try to combine that. And I just enjoy also the teaching process of like of that stuff. So I just like doing that both. But I mean, I cannot really say what I'm working on for the client stuff, but it's a pretty cool project, and maybe I'll share it once it's like shareable. And like for my the other course that I'm doing is almost done, so that should be on my YouTube channel pretty soon. It's like a more technical setup of like rigid body self-assembly sort of, so you can break something apart, like explode it, and then it reassembles itself in DOPS, so with a bunch of effects and stuff. So I made a course with that, with like a lot of electricity and cool stuff. So that's almost done. So that's going to be on YouTube. So that's something I'm also working on.
Well, thank you very much for being with us here today, Tim. We will for sure see more of you in the future.
Yeah, bold bros.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, today I am talking to Jacob Reynolds. Jacob, can you tell us about yourself and your game dev?
Okay, well, my name's Jacob, and I do a lot of different things. I've got currently a project that I'm working on, that I've been working on for years, and I like to make just a little bit of everything in game dev. It's just kind of like a hobby that I want to turn into a full-time career, but it's something I'm very passionate about, and it's a lot of fun.
And you recently won not one, but 2 prizes in Unreal Engine's Epic MegaJam. Congratulations on that. Can you tell us a bit about how you used Houdini to make your winning game, Marsh's Journey?
Yeah, thank you. And I used Houdini for pretty much everything, like from start to end. If it wasn't an animated asset, I used Houdini for it. Like there was maybe 2 or 3 different things that I modeled in Blender, but like Blender is normally my go-to. But where I was trying to make so much content so quickly, I just started using Houdini, and then like I was all the levels are done that way, and it really changed the way I did things. Like I started looking at it differently, and instead of just thinking, oh, can I make this one static thing? Is this something that maybe I could make a tool to make it? And even if it was a one-off, like I found myself using Houdini for this, like modeling, unwrapping, making it a little like, optimizing it for the engine, because you can decimate things, and just everything really. It just.
Can you tell us a bit about your experience using Houdini, Houdini Engine, and Unreal Engine together?
So yeah, bringing the tools that I was able to make in Houdini into the engine was pretty easy. I had a little bit of a user error myself with when I first got them set up, but once I figured out, what I was doing wrong, it was just like the platforms themselves, for example, they're just splines that are modeled up, and it's just how you would model it, like in something like Blender. You create a shape and then you extrude it up and do a little some processing on it. But I was able to do that for any shape that I wanted in the editor. So it's just import, drag it in, build it up, and by the end of it, I had like iterated, and which was really nice because you can just re-import, rebuild, and the whole scene can be rebuilt from scratch. And so it's nice. It's non-destructive. I always like that when things are procedural and I don't have to redo anything. And unless I made like a huge major change, nothing had to be like redrawn out except for like very rare instances. So it was just building up on top of it. If you look in the water level, there's these little, I don't know what you call it, like skirts to the bottom of the platforms, and those were done in Houdini as well. So it's like you just toggle that on and off because you don't need those in the desert. And if you have stacked platforms, you don't need that. So it was really easy just to add all of these different options, these little in editor toggles that you could turn on and off. And it really just was insane to be able to do that, because if you notice, there's a canyon level and there's actually 3 different kinds of platforms, and snow, desert, and the grasslands one. And so that's just, sliding the switch back and forth, and it turns certain things on and off and changes materials. And all of that was like crazy fast. And it wasn't hard to implement that either. It was just a couple of different wires and nodes.
That's awesome. And this was actually your first time using Houdini, which is pretty impressive. Can you tell us a little bit about how you went about learning Houdini and what your first time experience was like? Okay,
so yeah, I had looked at Houdini. I had wanted to use Houdini for years. Like I'd installed it, opened it, and I was like, whoa, this is complicated. I'm just gonna back away, because there's so much to it. It's very cool, but it's when you first get into it, you're like, I don't know what to do with it. So with the MegaJam, I was just like, I need to use this to get through, because there's like a lot of stuff that I wanted to make. And so about a week before, I wanted to, as soon as the free licenses for the time period came out, I wanted to start actually learning then. But I was doing other things and I got distracted, and I was working and everything. So it was up until like the week before, I hadn't really tried to learn it. So I put my headphones in. I started a bunch of different tutorials, because that's typically my strategy for learning anything. But I just went through the Houdini Isn't Scary playlist. There's another one, I think, and just like anybody who had a video on how to do Houdini, and specifically Houdini to Unreal, I listened to it while I worked. And once I got into the actual, editor on, the day of the jam, I was like, okay, well, I know what a SOP network is. I know what these modifiers do and what these different things do. And so I kind of had the vocabulary, and if I had to look up something specific, I kind of knew what I was looking for. And so that helped a lot, because otherwise, it's a mammoth program. Like there's so much you can do. Like I only stayed in a couple different tabs, and there's like 15 other tabs, and then there's hidden tabs, and it was just, there's so much. Like I like learning software and I like learning new things, and there's just like, I don't know, it seems like an infinite number of things you can learn, because it was cool. It was a lot of fun to learn it. Like I really enjoyed that part of it, especially when you could bring it into the editor. Like that was something before I couldn't do with just I think it's Apprentice. Is that the one where it's just, you can play around in there? As soon as I started bringing stuff into Unreal, I was like, hold on, there's something here. I really like this. And so yeah, it was just a major cramming of information over the first few days. And then once I started going, I just had like hundreds of tabs open, just Houdini searches. Yeah.
Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to us. We're definitely looking forward to seeing what else you do with Houdini for games. And yeah, best of luck in your game dev work.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Hi Hi there, my name is Paula Catano. I'm the Marketing Events Coordinator at SideFX, and in the last couple months I've been working with the Houdini user groups. We were able to host 15 presentations last year. These presentations, going from an in-person setting into a virtual world, has allowed for them to become global. And so moving forward, we want to continue doing that and working with the HUG leaders to continue offering the community information and knowledge. If you haven't already joined a group in your local area, please feel free to do so. And if there isn't one in your city and you would like to start one, reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to help you set one up in your area. More information on the HUGs can be found on the meetup.com/pearl/Houdini. And to kickstart the year, we had the Brew Hug host their first presentation with Simon presenting Python states taking HDA to the next level. In the coming month of February, we'll have the LA Hug host, I believe, on the 18th. More information can be found on our website, and in the following weeks, we'll have the Thug present as well. So with me today is Fianna, who will talk a little bit about what we can expect at the Thug. Hi, Fianna.
Hey, Paula. So for the Thug, we're going to have Ian Harvey, one of my former interns. He's going to be covering the Firecracker demo that you guys probably all saw in the Houdini 18.5 sneak peek video. So he's going to do a little walkthrough and also provide a download. And we'll talk a bit about his internship experience as well. So if you guys want to join us, that's probably going to be towards end of February, possibly early March. So keep an eye out for that.
Hey everyone, today I am talking to Chris Wallis. Chris, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your work?
Yeah, sure. Hi. Chris Wallis. I'm a software developer at the Coalition, which is a Xbox game studio behind the Gears of War series. I'm on the rendering team, so largely basically I write code that makes sure we can render nice pixels at real-time frame rates, so usually 60 frames per second. I'm originally from California. I graduated from Cal Poly in 2013 with a BS in computer science. So largely my background is very technical. So certainly on the spectrum of artist to engineer, I'm definitely far on the engineering side. So I could probably tell you all the nitty-gritty details of how Skinny's implemented. But if you said hey, skin a human being, I wouldn't even know where to start.
And you recently won the RenderMan Art Challenge. Congratulations on that.
And
you used Houdini a few different ways in that project. Can you tell us about how you used Houdini for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So to give a little background, so the whole challenge is around you get this little witch character that's all rigged. It's untextured, but it's all rigged, and it's kind of fun to play with. And then you get this whole also untextured scene. They have a whole bunch of props that make it look like a little magic shop. Texturing, and you kind of spin up your own story around that. And so sort of my idea for that was, again, I mentioned I'm a software developer. And so I took for some reason, I took a lot of inspiration from sort of college of just trying to figure out a really hard problem, just debugging there and sitting there I don't know what's going on. And so sort of the scene I'd set up is there's a desk and there's just books everywhere as she's trying to just kind of figure out okay, why isn't my little potion working? And so a big part, like I said, I don't have a lot of confidence in my skills as an artist because I'm not. And so I relied a lot on sort of just procedurally, I just wanted books everywhere, right? And so I basically used Maya just with its built-in sim just spam books everywhere. And just that by itself looked kind of artificial. It just looks like a bunch of spammed books. And so I wanted some open books where, the pages are all splayed out. And so that was kind of my first idea was using Houdini with its Vellum page solver to really just spread out some open journals and books. And so what I did was I rigged a few just book splines, and I just duplicated 30 to 40 planes and sort of put them like a stack of pages. And I just used the vellum page solver, and it didn't work the first try. I had to use some. I was kind of so essentially I put them in like a little V shape, and I put some fan forces to really just force those pages to kind of get that nice, like, what you'd expect from an open book. The other way I used Houdini was for the cauldron smoke, and that was kind of a two thing. Like originally I did some original tech tests where essentially I just took like the candle flame in Houdini, like literally open up Houdini, click candle flame, export as VDD. And that actually I actually was kind of happy with that. The only thing is the smoke there, it didn't really blend with the cauldron. Like it looked like I just stuck a candle flame in the cauldron. So I really wanted to kind of add something that would make it kind of feel like they fit together. And so I kind of had this idea, like, you imagine like a witch stirring a potion, you have like the smoke coming out of that cauldron. That's kind of what I wanted to capture. And that was again, essentially I took a sphere of just density and I just like cranked up the turbulence, put some gravity in there to kind of like push it down against the cauldron and it kind of explode out. And that worked okay. But the problem was the smoke just like completely obscured the cauldron, so you couldn't see the cauldron anymore. And so basically I played around with some tricks of like, okay, well, can I like mess with velocity and kind of try to spike it in ways like I kind of wanted like tendrils of smoke coming out so that, there would be spots where you could see the cauldron and then, these thick columns of smoke. And so I tried doing some tricks of like spiking velocity and you kind of get into these funny things where you're just, you change, like, if I change a 7 to an 8, will it make it look better? And you're just sitting there just doing random things over and over. And I was finally like, okay, there's got to be a smarter way to do this. And so I kind of came up with this solution of basically putting spheres where I wanted to leave the cauldron visible. I just set those as sim blockers. And that ended up basically being what I did. And so, yeah, those are kind of the two fun little ways I used Houdini in my project.
That's great. And this was actually the first time that you used Houdini. Can you tell us a bit about why you decided to use it and what the first time experience was like?
Yeah. So in my like day to day, I'm usually just like heads down in Visual Studio cramming code, and I work closely with a lot of tech artists and VFX friends, and every once in a while, back when I was in the office. You go by their monitor and you're like, whoa, that's some crazy thing. They just have this crazy cool stuff in Houdini. And so it was definitely just one of those things where it's just like, I got to see like why this tool is as powerful as it is. So I just kind of wanted to, just mess around with Houdini. The other thing was just kind of early on in the contest, I'd done a whole bunch of just kind of tech tests of seeing like, will this tool work for me? And so I was largely just playing with the free apprentice version of Houdini. So I just did some tests of like, I kind of knew I wanted these books and these smoke sims and like what can I get out of the apprentice version? And I did a quick test of like just a block, like just dropping a cube and saying like, yeah, I can export that as an OBJ and then I can throw that into Maya. And then the same thing with the VDB. Like I said, I just threw the candle sim in there and like, can I export this as VDB? And it worked. And I was like, okay, I think I could use this. So I was just a huge fan of what you could do with just the free apprentice version. As far as first time experience, but yeah, I mean, like with Houdini, like when you just open up Houdini, it's a little overwhelming at first. It's just like, it's so powerful of a tool. Like there's just so much stuff you can do with it. And I think largely like my approach for tools like this has been is like, don't try to learn the tool as a whole, but just like have the most narrow, thinnest of goals of like what you want to do with it. And so that's really like, I just, and both of the things the VFX I use it for were relatively unambitious, I guess. Like they're not these crazy, like I want the whole room to blow apart and bricks to fly and, metal will bend. Like, they're pretty simple things. And so, luckily like the Houdini documentation is great, but I think the community behind Houdini is even better. Like there's just like there's videos for everything. Like I largely the smoke sim I had was kind of inspired by some explosion effects. There's just like there's so many videos on like how to make explosions on Houdinis. Like you want to donkey shaped explosion. I'm sure there's a Houdini video for that. Like, there's just artists who will go through and they'll step through every little bit of the way. Like, this is why this does, works this way. And so I just think there's a lot of great resources on figuring out how to do things. And so that's something I certainly appreciated.
Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to us today, Chris, and best of luck in your future endeavors.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I have the great pleasure of introducing Chris Rydalch today to the Illume to actually bring some legitimacy to this whole discussion. So, Chris, I've known you for many years at Blue Sky, helping us integrating Houdini to the various different parts of the department. Obviously for effects work, and always having to fit within the constraints of CG Studio and the way that it liked to see data. And I thought CG Studio, as I said, was immutable, but boy, was I wrong. So the last 2+ years has been awesome working with you and Blue Sky, integrating USD into Solaris. So tell us a bit about yourself, how you got here, and yeah, anything you want to share with us leading into the discussion.
Sure. Yeah, I've been at Blue Sky for about a little over 5 years. I came here from PDI after PDI closed, and I started in effects, but then I had this opportunity to transition over to production technology, and I get to be part of the amazing team that is doing a from the ground up rebuild of our pipeline, which previously was very centered on our renderer, which had some really cool things about it. It was kind of fun, using the ray tracer that we were using in production all during the years when ray tracing in production was, a no-no or a taboo or a dream for the future. And so I guess kind of continue that legacy a little bit. We kind of like being on the bleeding edge of building a new pipeline with USD is kind of the core of it. Hopefully I can represent our amazing team and all the artists. It's been a team effort all the way. We've got a really cool group here. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's amazing. Yeah. So I guess just starting with the questions that I had, what really made your team decide to use USD?
Well, this started several years ago, back when Blue Sky was still Blue Sky, just as kind of a niche side experiment. And we've wanted to kind of evolve our workflow to be able to make better movies, to make movies faster, to be able to work on top of each other, to try and make it easier for different departments to contribute to the pipeline in predictable ways, and efficient as well, right? It's trying to find a general format that's as efficient for everybody. Again, that's good at reusability and kind of encourages those workflows of adding on and building on each other's work, sometimes at the same time. And so that we settled on, USD. It was kind of the big game. Some of us had some experience with those concepts in previous places. We had heard about the USD project. Some people came from other studios where they were also doing experiments. And so we had also heard that this thing called Solaris was being worked on by SideFX, and we in effects and crowds at Blue Sky, the primary users of Houdini, we knew that SideFX would be a really good partner, regardless of the fact that Solaris was a new tool, but it was built on Houdini, which is not a new tool. But we knew that SideFX would be a really good partner in all of this, and so that all gave us the confidence to kind of dive forward and start doing some tests. And we, the tests were really promising enough that we continued moving forward with USD as the kind of main data point, the main data format, I should say, of the new pipeline.
Now I want to get a little bit more detail into why USD. USD has a lot of features in it, and tunneling really deeply into USD, the specific features of USD that sold you. You could have gone in a number of different directions. You could have gone into what was at the time Pixar's pipeline, which is a hybrid USD going into Katana and then into RenderMan, which is a known path, and still USD based, or even stick with an Alembic format, which is tried and true. And knowing that Blue Sky is feature film, it's not working on animated features. And if that has anything to do with the decisions, what specific features in USD led you to believe that this thing could be used to build a studio on top of?
So it was a few different things. It encouraged a iterative parallel workflow. That was one thing that we've talked about when we've taught USD concepts internally, and when we talked and tested. It really encourages you to work in a way that is modular and kind of you're working with a team, in a team frame of mind, right? You're not thinking of yourself as your contribution in an island. You're thinking of your contribution in context of the greater whole. And we really liked that, and we wanted to get to more of that kind of a workflow just in general in the studio, regardless of any technology. But we wanted to build technology that serviced that, and USD was a big part of it. We saw USD also as complementary to another piece of the pipeline that we've been developing at the same time called Conduit, which is for version control, asset management. And there were a lot of things that we wanted Conduit to do, or the Conduit needed to kind of facilitate that USD did, like with layering and referencing. And so they were a nice complement to each other. We started doing our experiments without Conduit, with just pure USD. But there were so many things that the studio and production wanted that we could have kind of tried to patch together an approximation, but we knew that Conduit is going to get there, and it will be the place we want to get to eventually. So we decided to kind of get the whole thing, both of those tools, those pieces of the pipeline, moving forward together. The speed and efficiency of USD is great. We know it's been production proven at Pixar and at a few other places. They've been using it to various degrees. We knew that it wasn't perfect, right? We knew that it was an evolving and improving system framework. I'll use the word format, but I don't like using the word format because it's more than a format. But it is a format too, right? And we liked the idea of being able to bounce between renderers if we need to. We like the idea of where Hydra is moving. It wasn't there yet when we started. And in fact, we aren't using a Hydra delegate at the moment. We have an in-house bridge that directly translates from or streams USD into RenderMan. But we like the idea of using renderers, like the renderer that's best for the job. And if and it's an overly simplistic thing to say, but if you can get it into USD, then you can render it with a render delegate. That's really attractive. The last production spies, we did start using more than CGI Studio on a big scale, and it worked. But we would love for that to be a decision that kind of any group or department can kind of make on a more tactical level if they need to. The variance is a really powerful feature where you have built into the structure of your shots and assets a way to add easily switchable variants. It's a common UI, or a common mechanism, I should say. The UI is a little bit more dependent on the tool that somebody is in, but the underlying mechanism is the same. So, and we also knew that third-party support was growing pretty fast. There was a lot of excitement and interest around it, and so that we knew that would help stretch our technology dollars in a way where hopefully we will have less work to do to get something into the pipeline. When you have a purely proprietary format, you need a little bit more engineering support and a little bit more development work to get data from the new tool into the pipeline. And there's nothing wrong with that, but we liked the idea of leveraging what all of the vendors that we were using or could potentially use, let that work help get us into USD.